Hi, my name is Shmuel, and I was born in 1949, May 5th, and I was born in Israel. And my parents, my mother emigrated to Israel from Poland, and my father from Austria, Vienna. And they are a Holocaust survivor, and it changed my life dramatically as a child, you know, to grow up with the people that were children themselves during the Holocaust. And, you know, I just want to say that I am happy and I'm okay now, but I had a lot of struggle because of my parents, and I would like to talk to you about my parents, because it influenced my life and my well-being and my happiness and my not happiness. My mother was born in Poland in a small village to a very poor family. Like my grandfather Shmuel Zamber, by the way, my name is from my grandfather. He's teaching children Hebrew in a small cheder, it's called, a room. And he was very poor, and he had like 9 children. And my mother was a little different because she joined, before the World War II, to a Zionist movement called Dror. Dror means freedom. Don't forget, she came from a very religious family, and her parents were very angry that what are they doing with those goyim, he called them, those Jews that were socialist and want to fight for them, you know. But my mother stuck to this movement and stayed away a little bit from the religious way of life. And when the German came to the town, they got order at 11 o'clock to be in the train station with 1 suitcase, that they're going to work somewhere. But the youth movement told the kids to meet in the forest, not to go to the train station. So all those kids were saved because they lived in the forest with it's called partisan, the underground movement, which were Polish, not Jewish. And they saved, and all the village went with the train and never came back. I mean, my mother had, don't forget, 11 brothers and sisters, parents, grandparents, they all disappeared. And so my mother, you know, she was young, not uneducated, and alone. And she got caught by the Nazi, and she put in a camp, concentration camp. And after the war, she was survived. She came back to the village, and she knocked on the door of the house where she was born. And they asked, come a Polish farmer, and said, yes, what can I do for you? I said, I don't know. This is my home, where I was born here. Where is my family? So he told her that never come back. It's our house now. And if you come back, you know, you're in a deep trouble. So she left. And she left alone in the world, you know, and lost. And then she was picked up by the Jewish agency, and they took her to Italy to a camp to prepare for moving to Israel. And meantime, my father is a different story. He was from Vienna, and he suffered all what she did. And he also went to the camp in Italy, and that's my parents met there and got married there. And they went to a boat to Israel, and the boat was illegal. Palestine was a British colony, And they catch the boat outside of Haifa and brought it back to Cyprus, a camp. And my sister was born there in Cyprus. She was like a year and a half older than me. So when the UN declared Israel as an independent state, the British demolished the camp and sent them to Israel. Israel took them and put them in, not a camp, but I don't know, refugee camp, you know. And there, I was born there, and they were very, very poor and very unhappy. So unhappy that my father just decided that he's going back to Europe. And he left my mother and me and my sister. And my mother was unstable emotionally, psychologically, and she needed psychologically help. She had a nervous breakdown and all kind of problem. And my father disappeared. He went back to wherever he went. And that's it. He disappeared from my life and my sister. And the government decided that my mother cannot have us, support us. And they need to be taken away from her because she had a lot of problem. And we went to the government facility that we lived there. And this facility was built because after the Holocaust, when Israel became independent, they sent people to collect children they were putting in, in churches, in farms, to save them. And they collected them and put them in Israel, and they never had a family. But me and my sister, we lived also in this place. And my mother came to visit once in a while when she could. Sometimes she disappeared, she was not able. And then I grew up, my life went okay. I was sent to the kibbutz. By the way, the government always paid for our cost of living, because my father didn't pay for me and my sister. He disappeared. And when I was finished elementary school, they sent us to kibbutz. That's the bad things the country did. And I got parents to take care of me. But at that time, this kibbutz was a socialist, and we lived in the children's houses, not in the parents' houses. And we went to visit the parents like 2 or 3 hours a day. But we lived 2 boys and 2 girls in a room, in a children's house. And we have a classroom there, and with a kitchen. They cooked for us. It was a lovely life because we were children, but we're independent, freedom, A lot of kibbutz members are Holocaust survivors, and they had a lot of heavy issues. And I think it was a good solution. So, they could go to work in the field or in whatever, and the children was, and I was the only kid that came from the outside. The rest of my group were born in the kibbutz. I came to the kibbutz when I was 11 years old. And people like me could be vulnerable because they were like, they had a father and a mother, and they had stability. And I came, from nowhere. But I had the skill to, I fit in the class, in the group. I was good in sport. I was like charming. I was, did the funny, crazy stuff. So I actually had good well-being as a kid, but nobody followed me on my development. I had a learning disability, and I could not concentrate on school, but nobody was, I was like not watched, by anybody. And I had to hide my disability, my concentration problem. And as I say, we were a group, we were like brother and sister. We lived 2 boys and 2 girls in a room. We had showered together till we were 14 years old. You know, boys and girls in one shower. It's like, till today I keep, you know, we are my brother and sister. It's an amazing relation after 50 years, 60 years after that. And I went, after high school, I went to the army, like everybody else, for 3 years. I went to the army in November 68, and I got out of the army in November 71. And when I got out of the army, I came to the kibbutz, and there was volunteers came from United States and Europe to work and live and experience the kibbutz life. And they brought with them the culture. They brought the music, they brought the drugs, they brought the, you know, the sexual experiment. We were like a farmer kid, you know. And the kibbutz member, the leader were worried about the influence of those volunteers. They came from New York, Los Angeles, you know, Denmark, Sweden, Holland, you know, brought with them the clothing style, the drinking, the smoking, the dancing. It was like a big challenge. But for us, it was fun. And I was immediately got attached to that, you know. And the grown-up looked at me like, you know, I am like not a good role model to my friends, you know, adopted this and introduced them to all these things. Anyway, after the army, I decided it's time to know the story where my father went. Where did he go? He left me at 3 years old. And I went to my mother and asked her, I need a favor from you. I need you to spell me my real family name. In Israel, they called me Kraus. But that's not, my family name is a care house. But I didn't know how to spell it, and she didn't want to help me. So, but my intuition said that he is in Vienna, Austria, because that's where he grew up. That's his, you know, hometown. And he went back there. That's my assumption. She said he's maybe dead or maybe in Australia. I don't know. I can't help you. But I went after my instinct and I flew to Vienna at 1972. And I got in touch to the kibbutz movement, youth movement called HaShomer HaTzair, the Young Guards, the socialist, left wing. And he spoke Hebrew and German. And he was very excited about my story. He said, I'm going to help you find your father. If he's here. We don't know. So we opened a phone book, and I told him start the K. And for 3 days, he read me hundreds of K. Start K with the family name. Kuz, Kras, Kris, Kubel. After the 3 days, he said care house. I said, it's a something. I said again, care house. It's a familiar name. I heard that somewhere. Maybe when I was born, I don't know, it sounds familiar. So can you call? So he dialed. And it was a woman on the other side of the phone. And she said, yes, can I help you? I said, listen, I have here a young boy. He's like 22 years old. He's looking for his father. And she said, his father? Who is his father? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know, it's very strange, and I don't want to continue conversation because it's very suspicious. I'm going to close. And before she closed, he said, I have one more question. Is your husband have been once in Israel? And she said, oh, yeah. He told me he had a period there many, many years ago. But she was angry and irritated. Said, you know what? He's coming in an hour and you can call. He's going to pick up the phone. So in an hour he called. And there was this man. So he said, listen, I have here the boy looking for his father. So he said, his name is Shmuel? And his sister Bracha? I said, how do you know? I know, he's my child. Oh my God, where are you? You know, he knew immediately. He didn't need to hear anything. He knew exactly that because he kept it secret from his family. He was married to a German non-Jewish woman, which I heard she was converted. Her name was Sarah. And he had 3 children. And they didn't know anything about this. Nothing. So he came, and I thought he was a tall man. I saw a little man, and I had a very angry and suspicious feeling of him, so I didn't let him coming to me. But we started slowly but surely conversation, you know, I was curious. He said, why don't you come to my house? No, I said, can I come to your house? He said, yes. He took a taxi, and then he opened the door, and I see a wife and 3 kids. And the wife asked him, I think in German, who is this guy? So he said, I didn't tell you, I'm sorry, but this is my son. And he has a sister, and I had a family in Israel. So she starts screaming, you're idiots, you didn't tell me, and they start fighting. Why did you lie to me and this, blah, blah, blah. I said to him, listen, I didn't come to trouble. I just, you know. She said, no, I'm very happy. Come, you are my son too, she said. She was angry at him because he lied to her, but she was thrilled to see, you know, me. And, you know, I had a good and bad stories. You know, I saw his life, and I stayed there. I reconnected, and then I went back to Israel, and I told my mother, I showed her a picture of me and him. I said, wow, that's him, Walter, his name. Where did you find him? I told you he's in Vienna. Where else he will go? And to my surprise, she was not angry or she actually was very curious and happy that I found him. And I said, I'm going to invite him to Israel. He said that he tried to visit in Israel, but he was not allowed legally to come to see us because he didn't take responsibility for his children. You know, he didn't pay money for us. So he was in the list. If he would come, he would be arrested. So he used to come, he told me, illegal from Italy or Greece to boat, commercial boat to Haifa. And he used to like sneak with the employees for a week, but he said that my mother didn't let him see us. Till today, I don't know the story. And that's it. My sister never forgave him and never wanted to hear from him. My sister left to live in Argentina. She met a guy at the Six-Day War, 67. They came from, again, the youth movement to help the kibbutz because all the members went to the army as a reserve to fight the Six-Day War. And after the war, they left, you know. And then my life went, the kibbutz wanted me to stay and to be a good member and to marry a kibbutz woman and to have a family, but I had a lot of problems to solve. I have a lot of questions to be answered. And I felt I need to go out to be by myself and because if I will not leave the bubble, which I call the kibbutz bubble, because you don't pay bills, you don't pay rent, you don't pay electrical, you get everything you need and you give everything you can. That was the matter. You know, it doesn't matter if you're an engineer in the factory or you wash dishes in a dining room. You have the same life. And a lot of Holocaust survivors received money, huge amount of money in the late 50s. And believe me or not, they all gave the money to the kibbutz. I'm talking about the 50s. It could be like today, $1 million or $2 million in today money. But they had the ideologically, and the socialism was so into them, they gave it to the kibbutz. And the kibbutz built swimming pool, tennis court, soccer field, you name education, you know, for the kibbutz. We were like 600 people together in the kibbutz. And the one few family decide they cannot give it back. So they had to leave. They left the kibbutz. And they used the money for buying apartments and all these things. And my mother received money from the German through lawyers, and she was very poor. She was a nanny. She took care of a wealthy family, their children, and she got money every month from the German. And she got married with a Turkish Jewish guy she met in Tel Aviv. And they got married, and they had a son. And, he was a good man, but she was very difficult. And she really made him unhappy man, because he was such a darling, such a good, healthy human being, but uneducated. But he was healthy in his emotion and his heart, and he probably felt very sad when he looked at her suffering, her state of mind, and that's it. There is a lot that can go, but I don't know if I need to continue or cut it now. Okay. Okay, so David gave me a chance to continue my story, and I'm glad to do that. So let's concentrate a little bit about my father, Walter Kehrhaus. He was a very complicated guy, and I don't blame him. All his family vanished. He was alone, and he suffered in World War II. I don't even know, because he was very closed and a wall, and he could never open up, not to me, not to anybody. Nobody knew nothing, because he was like a stone and cannot show emotion. But he had a mission. When he left Israel and went to Vienna, he used to go to the center, to a coffee shop called Europa Cafe in the center of Vienna. And there was meeting of the few that survived the Holocaust and came back home. Before World War II, 25% of all Vienna were Jews. And after World War II, there were only like 6,000 people left. And 3,000 came back home, like my father. And they used to meet in the cafe every day, and they had a parliament. They talked, And he met people from the Israeli Secret Service, because they heard his stories, and they asked him to come to the office of the Secret Service. He said, "You are the perfect guy for us to help us, because we are here to hunt some Nazis that collaborated with the Nazis, and they live today in Vienna. And I know that you know some of them, because we heard your story to the other people." And my father told me that he was glad to do that. So he met the head of the Shin Bet, the Israeli Secret Service. His name was Yitzhak Shamir. By the way, I have a picture of two of them. And Yitzhak Shamir told him, my father said, he told me that he asked him if Yitzhak Shamir asked my father if it's okay if they give him money. He said, "No. This is my mission. No money, I don't want nothing. And I know I can use the money. I have 3 children, and I don't have steady income, but no money. This I will love to help you. And he start following them. He knew few from the concentration camp as the guards, you know. And he followed them on the train and in the coffee shops and in a hair salon, and he helped. He told me at least 4 people that the Secret Service took them away secretly from the street and integrated them and flew them some to Israel, or I don't know what happened to them. I don't know. It's a secret. But my father was, it's hard to explain why he didn't take care of me and my sister, my sister and me. And especially in the 6-day war, where he knew there were, 3 weeks before the war, people thought this would be the end of Israel. There were massive army from 5 countries, and on the news and this, and didn't come to rescue us. So when he came back to Israel to visit me, I went to a therapy, and I told the therapy that my father is in the kibbutz visiting me. He said, "You know what? I want to bring him to the session to help you. We're not taking care of him. We're taking care of you, because a lot of your problem is from him." So, not surprised, he agreed. We went to Haifa, where the therapist was, and he was sitting there, and he sort of knew what's coming. I mean, she told him, "We are not going to judge you. We are not going to blame anybody. We're going to help your son with this problem. So if you can open up a little bit and explain to us, no blame game, just to help your son." But later on, he flipped out. He just went out and went away. And then he went back to the kibbutz, took his suitcase, and disappeared. And again, I tried my best to take care of me, because, he didn't seem like to want to help himself, or he could not. There was, he tried to buy me turntable and records. In the kibbutz, we didn't have this money things, but clothes, shoes, took me to the hotels and restaurants, and but I needed more than that. I needed more, explanation, more to get closer. I could not even say Abba, which is mean dad, and I couldn't get the help. Now I understand he was not able. Not able. So the therapist said, "Listen, he's not able, you can't. You have to do it yourself. You can get help by me or by other, but there's nobody in the world that can heal you. You have to heal yourself." And she said something very smart. She said, "Time heals. The more you grow older and wiser and experience, you will understand and you will forgive." And for example, he didn't understand. He lived with me in the kibbutz, but it was a collective. You could not just stay there for many weeks and not contribute. You had to, there was a rule. If you stay more than 2 weeks, you have to work like 4 hours a day. In the cows, in the kitchen, in the chickens, in the children, something. You could not, it's not a hotel. And I told him, "Listen, the secretary for the kibbutz asked me, there are rules. Immediately He didn't want even me to finish my sentence. He took the suitcase, he packed, and he disappeared. Because he felt that, I don't know what he felt, threatened or the rejection, but I know it's the rules when people stay. Doesn't matter, father, mother, uncle, brother, sister. You know, the kibbutz was poor, and that was the rule. You have to contribute when you stay longer, you know. So there was ups and downs, but I decided always to forgive and to say, it's on him, it's not me. I didn't do anything. I gave him everything to heal myself, actually. I knew I could not heal him. It's like concrete. You need like a, you know, somebody, it's impossible. And I must say his children also suffered from him. He had 3 children. One, the older Vera, the mid one is Carmela, and the little one is Danny. And it's a very interesting story because today Carmela, the medium girl that she never had school, she started from being a secretary in a high-tech company to become, after 15 years, the CEO of a high-tech company. She taught herself everything. She never finished high school. It's a miracle. She has under her like 1,500 high-tech guys that has PhD in math and science. But she's a CEO, she is the boss, and never finished high school. This is a miracle. And I know that at work, she's a genius. But outside the work, the family and relation with life, she is like impossible. She doesn't talk to me for 15 years because when I came to Israel, I stayed with my brother from, you know, they are my children, my brother from and sister from my father's side, but I have one child from my mother's side. Amir, his name. And I used to be with him because it was, you know, I felt easy to stay. So she came to me and said, why don't you stay with us when you come? You know, I lived in New York in America, and every year I went to Israel to visit family, and the kibbutz too. And I said to her, you know, she lived in a suburb. I didn't have a car. It's not easy to go there. And, you know, and in the end, she decided to cut the relation with me because I didn't come to her, stay with her, you know. And I understand that she suffered as a child from him. It's like the second generation Holocaust dilemma, you know. By the way, my son, I have a son. I mean, I can't talk forever. I have a son. His name is Evan Kerhaus. It's the love of my life. And, you know, I decided when he was born that he will be the first generation that will be cut from these Holocaust things. You know, it goes with me, but I didn't want to pass it to him. And my wife, Edna Cohen, she is not from Europe and not from the Holocaust, her parents were born in Iraq, in Baghdad, you know, Mizrahi it's called. And they suffered from the Arabs a lot, but not like the Ashkenazi, the Jews from Europe. And the family, you know, she came from a healthy family. And that was very important for me, that she will be the mother of my child. And I was working in a store, days, night, holidays, weekend, and she was full-time mother. She quit her job, she's a chiropractor, to have the son, you know. He went to private school, and he went to summer camps, you know, in the upstate New York, you know. He got the best, you know, and the best education. But there's still something that went to him for my complication that he probably nourished without even doing. I didn't do much, but you know, he watched me. He saw some side of me with my relation with my wife. Or sometimes the sadness, the depression, he got it. And he has this that I saw in parties and weddings. He's quiet and not very outgoing. You need to know him very much so you open up and you show happiness and fun and, you know, smiling and telling jokes. And he has a bunch of friends and relatives that I can see him happy. But to go to places where he's unfamiliar with, like with the people, and he's like me a little bit. So, but he's beautiful, and he's also in high tech. He studied computer science in University of Wisconsin, in Madison, Wisconsin, and mathematics and physics. And now he works for Google, and he's 31 years old, and he's getting ready, I think, for the next chapter in life. And I'm happy that at 30 he's very mature. He's very realistic. He enjoys life. He enjoys go to the countryside, to bike 30, 40 miles, to run, to take care of dogs, and he has a relation that is happy. And I'm 71 years old, and I'm waiting for him to have a family and I want to have a grandson. That will be my joy. And so, what else? How much time more I have? Okay, I think we can cut it here. I mean, I can go forever. I didn't tell you about my brother from my father's side. He was in a very bad, he was obese. He had diabetic. He had a kidney problem. And he killed himself. Because when I came to visit, and I know a lot about about lifestyle and healthy life, he could help himself. He didn't want to put himself to the list for kidney, to get a kidney. He didn't want to help his diabetic. So he had dialysis, and he started dying. They cut his leg from the diabetic. The kidney died, and he passed away 2 years ago. He left 3 children, 3 boys in Austria and Vienna. And they're okay. The oldest one, Roy, is going to get married soon. Sammy, which I think has my name, Shmuel, and he's married with 2 children. And they all work with computers in Austria. They turn up good. And their mother split from her father before he died, like 10 years before he died, and she became a lesbian. And she married and lived with a woman in Salzburg, which is 2 hours train from Vienna. It's okay. And I have Amir, which is my brother from my mother's side. And he was professional army guy. And now he's the chief engineer in the post office in Israel. He's good. They have a daughter. They have a wedding in August. I have to go. They have one daughter. And that's it. I think I'm done. What do you think? Okay? I'm emotional a little, but it's okay. I'm happy that David gave me the opportunity. It's like a therapy for me, you know, to take it out. Because people can see that whatever you have, whatever, you know, everybody has his bag, has his problems, has his bad things that happen to them, but there's always optimism and a good chance to heal. You can heal yourself, and I healed myself. I'm happy as never been in my life, and well-being, and healthy, and I have no complaint. You know, my life is good, with all that I didn't have the parents that could take care of me, and I know how important family for the well-being of the children. If you don't give them attention, love, and follow them, their development, they're going to suffer. But, you know, there's always chance you can heal yourself, you can get help. It always you can get help from friends, from family, and therapists, and get better. Time heals. There's no question about it. The older you get, the wiser you get. Thank you very much.